Hello and welcome to How We Coach. I'm Tom.
And I'm Jack, and today we are talking about our Behaviour Management Pact.
Before our teacher training, when it came to behaviour management, when we were coaching children, we found it very easy to focus in on the negative behaviours only.
But then we totally changed our perspective on behaviour management. Instead of focusing on the children who were doing the wrong things, we began to focus on the children who were doing the right things.
Heavily influenced by our teacher training, but also Bill Rogers' 4-part behaviour model, we then have come up with our own 4-phase behaviour management pact, we call it. That's how we abbreviate it. We call it our pact.
It is a pact. PACT stands for Proactivity,
Acknowledgement,
Consequences,
and Transition.
and today we are looking at why we made that change
How we use our behaviour management pact.
and the outcomes that we've observed from making that change.
We have compiled a lot of our teacher training, but also our classroom experience all into this episode. There's a lot here, so buckle up.
Before using our Behaviour Management Pact, we struggled to deliver effective coaching sessions. This was mainly because we had constant interruptions and other behaviour issues.
We were guilty of sounding like broken records, saying things like, "Stop kicking the ball whilst I'm talking.
Didn't you hear what I said?
Why aren't you listening?"
We found that this led to a lot of ineffective behaviour management and we were wasting our coaching sessions.
Too often, this negative approach cultivated a bad atmosphere, and that was for us as coaches and for the children, and no one wants that.
Literally, nobody wants that. So, how do we use our Behaviour Management Pact?
Phase 1.
Proactivity.
This first phase is about how we show proactivity in the design of our environment.
We aim to maximise positive behaviour and minimise negative behaviour.
Something we do proactively before the season even starts is to make sure that the children and also their parents or carers have signed our agreement, so we all know our expectations and have agreed to them before the season even starts.
Some things that we include in our agreement are arrival times and appropriate equipment.
On the day of the session, before the children arrive, we design the environment. We try to make sure that
there is an activity ready for them to begin, even if they're early, regardless of the numbers.
this reduces any waiting around or potential for silliness.
Then, once we're ready to coach, we make sure that before we begin our explanation, we have all of the children's attention.
When getting their attention, we proactively ensure that the sun is not in the children's eyes.
So they don't struggle to see!
There's nothing going on behind us, like another game, for example.
So they're not distracted by something that's going on over there in the distance.
And that the area is clear for them.
So they don't have things to fiddle with and get distracted by.
We try not to talk to the children unless we've got all of their attention first.
A useful activity that we do is to play a game called Copy Me.
So for example, in Copy Me, I'll put my hands up and make sure that the children are looking my way, and if they're not, then I know I haven't got their attention yet.
This behaviour management technique saves our voices.
Starts with a bit of fun.
And most importantly, gains the children's attention so we can start talking to them.
Finally, we can then begin talking. But we keep two key things in mind. Start with why and keep it brief.
Simon Sinek's book explains that you need to start with why. As a result of this, people are more likely to be led by you because they see the purpose of the task and therefore the value in it. So, instead of saying, "We're practicing shooting today, team," or "We're doing it because I said so,"
we try and start with why. So we'll say things like, "Today, we're going to be practicing shooting because that's where we struggled in our last game." When we are talking to the children, we know that they want to be active. So we try and keep it as brief as possible.
As the coaching session progresses, we continue to give updates to the children about what they can expect. Like, for example, "We'll be finishing this activity in 2 minutes, team." This way, we remove any unexpected surprises and manage their expectations.
For example, we tend to finish with a 5-second countdown so the children know when the time for fun is coming to an end. And this, we found, is beneficial for all children, but especially those who are living with autism. Phase 2.
Acknowledgement. The second phase is all about ensuring we acknowledge the children's behaviour.
We then need to choose whether or not we're going to correct, encourage, or tactically ignore their behaviour.
We start off by using Bill Rogers' describe and direct strategy. This way we can outline the expectations of the group as a whole and the individuals.
We direct attention our way by saying things like, focus in over here everyone, eyes and ears this way thanks.
We like to describe what's going well in the session so far and then encourage it.
We say things like, wow, everybody's looking in, thank you for showing us that you're ready to listen. This way we're going to make the most of our session today.
Then, if needed, we can describe the behaviour that is not going so well and then correct it.
For example, one of us is fiddling around with some equipment. We need everybody looking this way, thanks.
This way, we make sure to avoid any confrontational behaviour whilst also acknowledging all the behaviour that's going on around the room. We have found that this really makes children feel safe.
If low-level issues persist, we use a combination of praising what's going well and tactically ignoring disruptive behaviours.
We use these two strategies when behaviour is not extreme enough to interrupt the whole group.
This works because it gives our attention to those who deserve it for doing the right thing.
Meanwhile, the children who are seeking our attention realise the only way they can actually get it is by doing the right thing.
An example of this would be if we've asked the group a question and we've got one child with a hand up whilst another one is shouting out.
We might say something like, we've got some good hands up over here and I'm going to ask you because of that.
When we are consistent with this, we find that the attention seekers in the group tend to try and get our attention through doing the right things.
Another thing we do is try to change the stories that the children tell themselves. We try to give them a fine reputation to live up to. We learnt this technique from Dale Carnegie in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
For example, in the past, with a more talkative child, we have said to them, wow, we can see that you could become a leader one day because people listen when you talk. So what we need to do now is work with the coaches as well to really lead by example. Phase 3.
Consequences.
The third phase is about implementing consequences if phase 1 and 2 haven't had the desired impact.
Our consequence system can be broken down into 3 parts. The first part being a verbal warning.
Then a yellow card.
And finally, a red card.
We give a verbal warning to children who are consistently ignoring what we're saying.
If the negative behaviour persists, we would then give the child a yellow card. This would result in them sitting out of the training session for 5 minutes.
Our last resort is a red card. And when this happens, we have a conversation with the child's parent or carer and make sure that we can put things in place so that these behaviours don't happen again.
However, in between warnings, yellow cards and red cards, we try to de-escalate the situation, and we do this by giving the children choices. For example, we might say something like,
you've got a choice here. You can either keep calling out, which will lead to a yellow card, or you can be quiet when the coach is talking and we can all play the game together.
In the moment, and when we are reacting to the children's behaviours, we have to remember that the only thing in our control is our response to their actions. We try to stay as calm as possible throughout.
We want the children to understand that their behaviour is in their control.
Choices make it clear that their behaviour can have a positive or negative impact, but it is totally up to them.
Phase 4.
Transition.
In the fourth and final phase, after consequences, we need to make sure that the children transition back to their positive behaviours.
We feel it is really important to repair the rapport with that child so we can make sure we can all get back to a positive place.
We ensure that the children under our supervision feel safe and that they understand that we care about them.
Something that we have said in the past to a child is, how can we support you to get back to being your best?
We find it important to show consideration for their lives outside of sport as well.
We try to consider things that may have happened outside of the training session that might be affecting their behaviour, such as their personal lives,
the days they've had,
or they might just be thirsty or hungry.
We can't control the children's behaviours, but we can control how we react to them. It is crucial that we follow our safeguarding procedures if we spot any worrying concerns. Now we move on to our outcomes.
When using our behaviour management pact, we have found that children are more willing to listen to us and do the right thing.
As well as this, we've also got more time to help the children do their best during our coaching sessions.
By focusing on good behaviours and rewarding them, the sessions tend to just be more upbeat and positive in general.
By focusing on the positives, we've found it's a lot easier to be grateful, make better decisions, and feel more confident as coaches when we're out there.
If you'd like to find out more, we'll be leaving links in the description below.
We also dive deeper into this topic on our podcast, Team Talk with Tom and Jack.
Check it out.
We look forward to uploading our next video on YouTube. It will be all about coaching drills and what makes them work. We once again look forward to providing you with as much value as we can.
Thank you so much for watching this episode on behaviour management. We hope you enjoyed it. All of the links to our socials are in the description below, and I hope you do all of those YouTube antics with liking and subscribing.
I have been Tom.
And I have been Jack.
And this was How We Coach.